Krishna. Today is a very historical Rath Yatra. I have never seen such a Rath Yatra. I don't think Lord Jagannath has ever seen such a Rath Yatra. It is interesting. I was told Avanti swept. That's Avanti and Archana. The origin of the whole story of Rath Yatra took place in Avanti Desh. Did you know that? And from the time of the first Rath Yatra in history, the person every year that sweeps in front of Jagannath is the king of Orissa, and the king of Orissa are all descendants of the king of Avanti Desh. So the story begins in Avanti. Maharaj in Jujumana. He was longing to understand the goal of life. He was longing to know God. Although he had vast wealth, power, fame, youth, beauty, everything, he was not satisfied, because he knew that all of these things are all empty and meaningless unless we understand who is God and what is our relationship and what is the real purpose of life. He was longing to see God. And if he couldn't see God, everything else could not touch his heart. One sadhu, Brahmin, came to Avanti Desh and spoke about, King, what you desire. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is on earth in the form of Nilamadava. And he gave some indication where he would be. So the king sent his trusted minister, Vidyapati, to search. And ultimately, on that very beautiful bluish mountain called Nilachala, on the shore of the ocean, he had the darshan of Nilamadava. It is a long story, but I'm only speaking a few words. Vidyapati's life was to share this information with the king. So he went back to Avanti and told King Jujumana, I have found Nilamadava, the Supreme Lord, in the form of a deity. So King Jujumana, he immediately left his kingdom. We will go there. And he had a procession with chariots, and Narada Muni was there, he joined him. And they went to Nilachala. But when they arrived, there had been a massive sandstorm. When they came to where the temple was, there was nothing there. Nilamadava was gone. So King Jujumana was so serious, he felt it must have been due to some offense and he was ready to fast until death. But then a voice spoke that 3 logs of sacred wood will be washed up from the ocean, and you should make the deities of Balaram, Subhadra, and Jagannath from these. And Nilamadeva will manifest in these forms, and you should worship him here in what is today known as Jagannath Puri. So these 3 divine logs washed on the shore, and King Indradyumna found a carpenter who actually happened to be Vishwakarma, who came in disguise to carve the forms of the Lord. But he told the king that you give me a secluded place and you do not come in to check on my progress until I finish. But the king was so enthusiastic and so eager. Every day he'd listen outside the door and hear the chipping away. And he was very happy. But why is it taking so long? So days went by, week went by. And he didn't hear anything. Total silence. A whole day. Another day. What's happening? Why no progress? The king was just so eager to see the Lord. He was so worried, maybe something happened. He opened the door. And there it appeared, there were 3 deities. They didn't have legs or feet. They didn't have hands. They looked very much unfinished. Then he realized that the carpenter said, if anybody comes in, then I will not continue. So the king was thinking that because of him, Nilamadeva, who was going to give his darshan to the whole world, now was not going to reveal himself. The deities are unfinished. So again he decided to fast till death for his offense. But then Narada Muni appeared, very happy, and he told a story. He said, actually this is the Lord. This is the way he wants to appear. They are not unfinished deities. This is the Lord's Mahabhava Prakash. Then Narada told a story, how in Dwarka, the queens were always hearing Krishna talk about the gopis and the gopas of Vrindavan. When he would sleep next to his queen Rukmini, Satyabhama, Satya, Mitravinda, Jambavati, he would be crying in separation from Radharani, Lalita, Vishaka, Nanda, Yashoda. They were discussing amongst themselves. Why Krishna, his love for the gopis is so deep. Sometimes he would even tell them that the only reason I love you is because you remind me of the gopis. So they wanted to hear the Leelas of Vrindavan. But of all the ladies, it was a meeting something like this. All the ladies, all queens came together. And the only person who knew the stories was Rohini. Because Rohini was Balaram's mother, and she lived through all the Leelas of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan, and she moved to Dwarka also. Because she was the wife of Vasudeva. So they asked Rohini, please tell us the Leelas of Vrindavan. Rohini said, I can't. Because as soon as I start speaking about Vrindavan Leela, then Krishna and Balaram will come running here to hear. And they will go into so much ecstasy. And I will go into so much ecstasy. It will be impossible for me to continue. Subhadra who happened to be the sister of Krishna and Balaram, she said, I will guard the door. And if Krishna and Balaram come here, I will warn you, so you will stop speaking Krishna Katha, Vrindavan Katha. So that was a good plan. Subhadra stood at the door, right in the middle of the doorway. But as she was hearing the wonderful Leelas of Vrindavan, she became stunned like wood. And then she melted in ecstasy. She just stood there. She couldn't speak. Nothing. And meanwhile, Krishna said to Balaram, Rohini is speaking Vrindavan Leela, let's go. Because Krishna knows everything. So they came running to the site. And Krishna stood on the left side of Subhadra, Balaram on the right side. Right at the doorway, but nobody saw them. They were all listening. And Krishna, Balaram, Subhadra, listening to the Vrindavan Leelas, they were stunned in ecstasy, in separation from their loved ones in Vrindavan. When Rohini explained the beautiful loving affairs between Radha and Krishna, in ecstatic love, all three of them, their arms entered into their bodies. Their legs entered and feet entered into their bodies. Like a tortoise withdraws limbs within shell. And they had big smiles on their faces. Their eyes became dilated. And they stood like handless, legless pieces of wood. At that time, Narada Muni came from the airways, and he saw Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra in this form. He went into ecstasy. He was screaming out, I have seen this Mahabhava Prakash. What darshan could be more intimate? What darshan could be more higher than this? Seeing Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra in the ecstasies of their divine love from the residence of Vrindavan. Meditating on the loving exchanges with the gopis. I have seen. And hearing him, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra came out of their Mahabhava Prakash, and they looked up at Narada Muni. And Narada Muni begged for a benediction. He said, let there be some place on this earth where these forms of your Mahabhava Prakash, where you're revealing the ecstasies of your love, and whoever goes to that place, and whoever sees those deities, let them receive your love and your mercy. So Krishna was very pleased with Narada Muni, who was always thinking of everyone else's welfare. This is the nature of a devotee. Narada Muni was so happy to see this form. But a Vaishnava wants to share his or her happiness with everyone. Srila Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan, in Seva Kunj. Today in Vrindavan there's a walled-off area called Seva Kunj. But actually that whole area where Radha Damodar temple is, where Krishna's Ras Leela takes place, it's a very holy place. Prabhupada was living there, immersed in the highest pleasures of spiritual love. But he left, went on Jaladuta, New York City, then traveled around the world between 12 and 13 times, sharing that love. Because Krishna is most pleased when we share his love and repeat his message to others. That is Narada Muni. In fact, Prabhupada is in disciplic succession of Narada Muni. And so are we. So Narada Muni, he said, I want so that anyone can come to see this darshan and get your divine love. So Lord Jagannath said that yes, in Nilachala, not far from Bhubaneswar, in Nilachala, I will reside in this form with my brother and sister. And anyone who comes and sees me and prays to me and chants names with faith, I will give them my love. When King Prataparuja heard this story from Narada Muni, he was very, very blissful. They were not unfinished deities. They are the perfect deities, perfectly representing Krishna's spiritual ecstasies in separation from Vrindavan. And as part of the installation, King Indrajumna made 3 beautiful chariots, one for Baladev, Subhadra, and Jagannath, to bring them from the Snan Vedi, where they performed the Abhishekam, to their new temple. That was the first Rath Yatra in Sri Jagannath Puri. And that festival has been celebrated since that time. And about 500 years ago, Krishna, who appeared to Sri Radharani, who especially made his residence in Puri because of Lord Jagannath. He wanted to go to Vrindavan, but his mother and all the other devotees of Navadvip and Shantipur, they requested, Vrindavan is so far from Navadvip. We'll never hear of your welfare if you go there. But devotees from Navadvip are regularly going to Puri. And the same Krishna that is in Vrindavan is living as Jagannath in Puri, so please make that your base. So to please his devotees, he went there. But there's a very deep reason he went there. Of course, pleasing his devotees is very deep. But there is an esoteric message that is revealed in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Rath Yatra represents one of the deepest pastimes that have ever been revealed in the Holy Scriptures. After Lord Krishna was residing in Dwarka for so many years, first Mathura and then to Dwarka, the residents of Vrindavan were in so much separation. They received a message from Krishna that he would be going to Kurukshetra, solar eclipse, and invited the Vrajavasis to come to meet him there after a long time. Just a few years ago, I had the good fortune of being in Kurukshetra. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he built a Gaudiya Math at the very place where Krishna met the residents of Vrindavan, on the banks of what is now Brahma Sarovar. When Krishna met Nanda Yashoda, his queens were there, his armies were there, Vasudev Devaki was there, and cowherd boys, gopis, they all met together. But Srimati Radharani and her gopi friends, although they were so happy to see Krishna again, There was some very, very deep emotions in their heart. Where is his peacock feather? And where is the Gunjamala? And where is your simple attire as a cowherd boy? Now he's wearing a crown, armor, and the royal opulent robes of a prince. We don't like to see you like this. We want to see you holding your flute on the banks of the Yamuna, surrounded by cows and gopas and kadamba trees and singing birds. Here you're surrounded by soldiers and royal queens and chariots with horses and elephants and the rattling of all of these sounds. We want to take you back to Vrindavan. So in her heart, Srimati Radharani and the gopis, their emotion, they made 3 chariots and put Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra on these chariots and pulled them with the ropes of their affection back to Vrindavan. It was that meditation of the gopis that is the origin of Rath Yatra. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. So he especially was very, very fond of the Rath Yatra. Jagannath temple represents Krishna's Dwarka Lila that he manifested in Kurukshetra. And Gundicha represents Vrindavan. And taking Krishna from Jagannath on his chariots from Jagannath temple to Gundicha is the gopis longing to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada explained that Vrindavan is our heart. If Krishna is in our heart. Krishna never takes a step out of Vrindavan. And Krishna is none different than his name, none different than his deity form, none different than remembering him with love and devotion. So wherever we are remembering Krishna in a service attitude of devotion, that our heart becomes Vrindavan. Well, Prabhupada in one Rath Yatra lecture, he explained this whole story very simple. I'm giving long story, but Prabhupada's so expert, he can tell everything in its essence in one line. Would you like to hear? Prabhupada said, Rath Yatra is the festival of bringing Krishna back into our heart. Now in Puri, Jagannath's chariot, how many of you have seen? Please raise hand. It's very towering high. I think it has 16 wheels. Each wheel is bigger than any of us. Hundreds of people could be standing on it at the same time, and Jagannath's eyes are above them all. Of course, they're hearing Prabhupada singing or doing lectures 24 hours a day, but then they hear a kirtan in the hallway, and in comes Jagannath's chariot. Baladev, Subhadra, Jagannath. Devotees offering Charanamrit, giving flowers for them to offer, Mahaprasad. It's inconceivable. One of the highlight experiences of many devotees' lives is seeing this Rath Yatra in Bhaktivedanta Hospital. So That chariot has now come under the inspiration of Palika Mataji and her garland-making team of Vaishnavis. It was their inspiration and their longing to have this Rath Yatra festival. I'm so proud of you. Palika Mataji is always thinking of amazing ways of devotional service to please the Vaishnavas. And having Rath Yatra for all ladies is very special. Very nice. You are all... Actually, the original Katha, which inspired Rath Yatra, was all ladies. Huh? And the... Yes, this is historical. And also, the original festival of Rath Yatra began with the king of Avanti sweeping the streets. And we had Avanti sweeping our streets. And the concept of Rath Yatra was the gopis bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. So I think if we have this festival every year, then many of the men of our congregation will pray to take birth as ladies. So that they can intimately participate in this historical festival. Thank you very much.